JBN will keep you informed. I'm Michelle Jones, and in the news, Privy Council refuses cartel's request for fresh evidence, murder appeal still to be litigated. The Privy Council has denied dancehall artist Vybz Kartel's request for fresh evidence to be presented in the appeal of his murder conviction. Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, made the clarification in an interview on Nationwide Radio on Tuesday morning. Llewellyn stated that Kartel's murder appeal case is still to be litigated before the courts. The request to have fresh evidence presented, Llewellyn said, is in relation to the phone that is at the center of the case, which resulted in Vybz Kartel, given name Adidja Palmer, receiving a sentence of 35 years before being eligible for parole for the 2011 murder of Clive Lizard Williams. In 2020, Kartel and his co-accused were granted conditional leave to go to the Privy Council to challenge their murder conviction. The men filed an application seeking to go to Jamaica's final court after their appeal was rejected in April 2020. The artists, co-accused, Sean Campbell, Kyra Jones, and Andre St. John, were also convicted in 2014. They were handed mandatory life sentences. Kartel was ordered to serve 35 years before being eligible for parole, while Sean Storm, Jones, and St. John were ordered to serve 25 years. The Court of Appeal in April shaved off 2.5 years of the times. Government targets $635 million spend from traffic ticket fines. The government is betting on traffic fines to help it finance up to $635 million in spending across the Ministries of Justice and National Security during the upcoming fiscal year. The bulk of the projected spending, $450 million from traffic ticket fines, is to be spent by the Ministry of National Security on personnel, records management, ancillary services, property, general maintenance, and minor repairs of police stations. The rest of the funds, $185 million, will be spent on preventative maintenance and refurbishing of courthouses through the Ministry of Justice. The total sum to be spent across the two ministries from traffic ticket fines is 13% lower than the targeted spend in the current fiscal year. The total inflow from traffic ticket fines for spending on the same purposes for this fiscal year totals $731 million. Stricter bail conditions for Sagicor employees accused of fraud. Stricter bail conditions were imposed Tuesday on former Sagicor senior executive Alisa Moulton-White, along with her three co-accused, in a multi-million-dollar fraud case involving the financial institution. Moulton-White, her sister Tricia Moulton, Tishon Samuels, and Malika McLeod were given the stricter bail rules when they appeared in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court. All four have been slapped with multiple fraud charges, including larceny of the servant and conspiracy to defraud. The four women were ordered by Senior Parish Judge Lauren Cole Montague to report to the nearest police station on Tuesdays and Thursdays between the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They were also ordered to surrender all travel documents, and a stop order was placed at all ports. Additionally, a fingerprint order was also made for the women. Following an investigation by CTOC, $65 million was allegedly removed from 6 Sagicor United States accounts. Moulton-White was the vice president of group marketing for Sagicor Group Jamaica, while her sister Tricia served as manager at the bank's Legany branch in St. Andrew. McLeod was employed as a personal banker, and Samuels was a client care officer at the Sagicor Bank. All four were ordered to return to court on April 27, as the case file has not yet been completed. The prosecution revealed that partial disclosure is expected to be done on March 31. Over 100 rounds of ammo found in fridge in Papine. The police have seized a large quantity of assorted rounds of ammunition in Back Road, Highlight View, Papine, St. Andrew on Monday. Reports are that about 11:30 a.m., a team conducted a targeted raid and the premises was searched. During the search, 99.22 Remington rifle cartridges, one 5.56 magazine, and one Smith & Wesson 9mm magazine were found in a bag in an old refrigerator. No one was taken into custody. Investigations continue. Gun and ammo found under cardboard in Denham Town. A police team attached to the Kingston Western Division seized a gun and several rounds of ammunition during a raid on Sunlight Street, Denham Town in Kingston on Monday. Reports are that about 8:10 p.m., lawmen conducted a snap raid in the area. During the search of a premises, one Taurus 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 5 rounds of ammunition was found under cardboard in the yard. It was subsequently seized. No one was arrested in relation to the seizure. Two charged of the gun and ammo seizure in Spanish Town. 2 men have been charged in relation to the siege of an illegal gun and ammunition during a joint police-military operation in Top Banks, Spanish Town in St. Catherine on Monday, February 13. Charged with possession of prohibited weapon and possession of prohibited ammunition are 21-year-old Nigel Halstead, otherwise called CJ, a mason of Marchpen Road in the parish, and 24-year-old Shamara Hewlett of Oxford Road in Spanish Town. Reports are that about 10:30 p.m., the team conducted an operation in the area where both men were seen at a premises whose action arose their suspicions. They were accosted, searched, and during the search, one Glock 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 18 9mm rounds of ammunition was seen in a bag that was in their possession. Both men underwent a question and answer session in the presence of their attorneys. They were scheduled to appear before the St. Catherine Parish Court on Friday, February 24. Elderly Hanover man overjoyed with new house from Poor Leaf Department. Janita Morris was a bit skeptical last year when her father was promised a new concrete house to replace the dilapidated board structure in which he lived. However, she was more hopeful after receiving assurance on the Poor Leaf Department of the Hanover Municipal Corporation and witnessing the start of construction 3 months later. I had a little doubt, yes, but after that my doubt was gone because I knew something was going to happen, said Janita, who noted that she was very, very happy for her father. The house was officially handed over to Edward Morris last Thursday by Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Desmond McKenzie. Janita is one of 2 daughters living in the Dundee Pen community, as your father does, but neither is in a position to assist him financially. She said that her 78-year-old father, who was a labourer, had badly needed help as his whole house was crumbling around him. It was really bad. The ply did rotten. You couldn't take your finger and bore through the ply. The door jam almost drop off, said Janita. For the assistance given to him, Edward Morris, a man of little words, expressed his gratitude in the form of a prayer. I give praise to the Father above. He can do everything. And I thank the poor relief and the infirm nurses them. I give thanks and praise to the Lord above. Amen, he said. The elder Morris has been losing his sight gradually over the years and is also unable to get around without the assistance of a walker or cane. Head of the Hanover Poor Leaf Department, Nikia Edram, said that Edwards has been registered with them for the past 15 years. He is among those that it helps through institutional or non-institutional care as it tries to alleviate poverty within the parish. During the handover ceremony, Mackenzie, who said he, too, is from humble beginnings, vigorously argued that people born in less than ideal circumstances should not die in the same way. A long-term advocate for the poor and infirmed, Mackenzie stressed that those who have contributed to the country's development should not be forgotten when they're old. Once they meet clearly outlined guidelines, he said, the state has an obligation to be there for them. Morris's house is equipped with electricity and a water tank. It is one of 5 to be distributed under a $27 million pilot project. The remaining 4 units, which will also be furnished, are not yet complete. Second grant by a worker killed in your hotel identified. The employee of the Grant by a Principe Hotel in Runaway Bay, St. Anne, who was killed in a hit and run in the vicinity of the hotel yesterday morning, has been identified. He is 40-year-old bartender Franz Johnson of Farmites, Montego Bay, St. James. Police reports are that the incident happened about 8:20 a.m. Information received is that Johnson was walking along the side of the road towards the hotel when he was hit by a grey Toyota Allion. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Johnson is the second employee of the hotel to pass away in the same vicinity in the last 3 days. On Saturday, 25-year-old chef Omain Brown of Santa Maria Drive, Hopewell District in St. Anne, died from injuries he sustained in a crash in the same vicinity. The manager for external relations at the Grand Bayer Principe Hotel, Fabian Brown, said both incidents are beyond unfortunate. So we've had 2 unfortunate situations. To say it's unfortunate is really an understatement. On the weekend, we had a motor vehicle accident in the vicinity of the hotel, and this morning, unfortunately, we had another accident. This one was a hit and run, but in both cases, members of staff were involved. Naturally, you'd appreciate the gloom and the challenge and the stress that has overcome the entire team that we have. They are doing their best now to weather the storm, as it were. The manager for external relations at the Grand Bay Principe Hotel, Fabian Brown, said both incidents are beyond unfortunate. So we've had two very unfortunate situations. To say it's unfortunate is really an understatement. On the weekend, we had a motor vehicle accident in the vicinity of the hotel, and this morning, unfortunately, we had another accident. This one was a hit and run, but in both cases, members of staff were involved. Naturally, we'd appreciate the gloom and the challenge and the stress that has overcome the entire team that we have. They are doing their best now to weather the storm, as it were, he said. Brown underscored that counseling is taking place, while the families of the employees have also been contacted. Our Human Resource Department is working assiduously in terms of counseling and support to assist in very, very challenging and trying times. You would appreciate that to have any of your colleagues been impacted is in itself a challenge, let alone a situation where you understand that there's a fatality involved, he noted. Local government elections postponed until February 28, 2024. The local government elections that were due in 7 days have been postponed for a third time until February 28, 2024. The announcement was made by the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Desmond McKenzie, in the House of Representatives Tuesday afternoon. The elections, which are constitutionally due every 4 years, were last held in November 2016. They were due to be held in November 2020, but were postponed as the country was still in the grips of the COVID-19 pandemic. This was notwithstanding the fact that general elections were held 2 months earlier in September of that year. Among other things, McKenzie, in piloting and opening the debate on the representation of the people, postponement of elections to Municipal Corporation and the City Municipalities Act, cited that the country's economic recovery post-COVID, while good, was still fragile. He also said that consultations were still underway to make Portmore the country's 15th parish. The parliamentary opposition has stated that it will not support the latest postponement, with leader of opposition business in the House, Philip Paulwell, questioning the real reasons for the postponement. He asked if another postponement will be sought if the country's economic recovery is not where the government wants it to be in a year's time. Paulwell also cited that at least 15 divisions were without representation, some for as long as 4 years for various reasons, including the death of sitting councillors. He also argued that the government's indifferent treatment of local government was in part to blame for the poor voter turnout in elections, including general elections. GBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.